Hello, hello, everyone. Today I have an awesome guest with me, Aaron. And Aaron and I are just going to kind of talk about, we're going to talk about this beautiful solstice energy. We're going to talk about all the amazing stuff that's going on, all the changes we're all going through as a collective consciousness, as individuals, which I'm sure you're feeling at this point. So I want to just kind of introduce Aaron to you. He is an absolutely amazing, beautiful soul, and we have some really beautiful messages that I feel are going to come through today. So, Aaron, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Kata. This is amazing. This is something I've really looked forward to. I never really had any intention of ever being a YouTuber, and somehow about a year ago, I kind of started following you, and you were sort of one of the first YouTubers that really kind of caught my attention. And I just as time went on, I got more and more interested. And sometime around January, February, I just got this like call to start a YouTube channel, and you were the person who gave me the encouragement to make that first step, and I really appreciate that. So it's such an honor to be here with you. You're like one of my heroes right now, so this is really cool
Aw,
and stuff. And
that's
so
awesome.
so yeah,
Well,
when the opportunity to have this conversation about the ascension and what's going on and stuff came up, like yeah, I can't turn this down, especially on the day of the solstice. I mean, how amazing is that, right?
beautiful, beautiful. This is honestly, it is truly coordinated by spirit. That's how I feel. This
Absolutely.
was meant to come together, and it was meant to come together today. And I'm really stoked. I'm just getting like kind of full body chills already as I'm saying that. So I know we've got some good stuff coming through today. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So how do you want to hop into it? You want to talk about the solstice first? Let's talk about the solstice.
Yeah, yeah. So, like I said, today's, the solstice. And, what I've kind of figured out is like the last few months, like say April, May, and June, for a lot of people, I work with a lot of people in recovery. Have a lot of conversations with people who are recovering from alcohol and drug addiction, but just, in general conversations too. And I've noticed that like April, May, and June seem to have been a really transformative period for a lot of people. It seems like there's a sort of a spiritual streamlining that's been going on, where people are sort of like finding the things that are weighing them down, in life, like whether it's jobs, relationships, just, situations that really don't align with them and aren't serving them anymore. Myself, I was a copier salesman up until April, and I was actually pretty good at it and had a pretty good career. And, in the last 6 months, Spirit saw fit to make it to where all my deals sort of fell apart, and I ended up losing that job. And it was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I by kind of shedding that career that didn't really resonate with me and stuff, it kind of freed me up personally to kind of focus on this work. And so I think there's a lot of people that are finding those kind of changes happening in their lives. And really, like, these last couple of weeks, especially since the strawberry moon, it seems like it's really kind of brought to light the things in our lives that we've outgrown or maybe don't serve us anymore, and have kind of spurred people to have this like really intentional effort to sort of clear those things out of their lives or change the dynamic of them to where they do align a little better. I mean, what do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. It feels like divine redirection. That's
Absolutely.
really what I'm getting. Divine
Yep.
redirection. That's what's happening, and it's happening on a mass scale, for each of us, and it's happening in a very unique way for each of us because we're all being redirected into the areas of our lives that need that redirection, right? So for you, it was work, right? And God was like, "Hey, I have a bigger plan for you." So how about we level up a little bit and do something different. And I also feel like a lot of people's gifts are coming online. A lot of people are really starting to tap into more of their like abilities and psychic abilities and just channeling and connecting, right? And I feel like there's this huge call actually right now for people to connect.
Yep.
I feel that there's a very like intense energy of like unity, of that oneness energy coming back online in a very powerful way. So even this, like even us sitting down and talking today, this is definitely another one of those examples. It's just like God bringing people together,
Yep.
to collaborate, to talk, to share ideas, and to really just exchange that information that we're both basically channeling in today,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yeah, and and that's exactly what it is. It is that unity. It's that connection. I think for so long we've kind of been at the place where we've been willing to exchange ideas and stuff like that, but it always kind of seemed like a separate effort. And I think that, yeah, you mentioned collaboration. I think that's a really huge theme that's coming up is that I've seen so many people like on in YouTube and just like in general, like being more willing to like really establish connections with other people and work together
Yes.
and kind of synergize energy because it seems like when two or more people come together, the output is actually a lot more than it would be, if there's just two people, on their own. And so,
Mhm.
that tells me that spirit really wants us to embrace this unity consciousness and really kind of get into that. And then you mentioned people's gifts coming online, and that is absolutely happening. And I think what's important for people to realize is that it's okay. Like you're safe to have those gifts. I think a lot of people have what's called a witch wound, maybe from past lifetimes or just, societal conditioning telling you
Yep.
that those kind of gifts are somehow sinister or wrong or something like that. And I think we're finally at a time in human history where having those gifts is going to become sort of the norm. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and it seems like we've kind of crossed the threshold to where we're like realizing that we're more spirit than human.
Yes.
And this is sort of our part-time our occupation, and now like we're getting the opportunity to kind of go to a new place, like go to a higher frequency and live from there and basically attract the life and the collaborations that come with that new frequency.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're also anchoring in energy, I feel like, through these collaborations. Like that's something I'm feeling very strongly right now is that, or actually I'm even seeing it as we're talking, that as the two of us are coming together, we're like amplifying energy. And because of this amplification, we're rooting in, we're grounding in. And even today, like this is truly not an accident that it came together for us to have this meeting today on the day of the solstice, on this day of like balance and harmony and absolute unity and coming together. And even the fact that it's like you're male and I'm female because the
Yep.
solstice, the summer solstice is all about the masculine and the feminine energies coming together and coming together in harmony.
Yep.
And so we're actually embodying that and anchoring and rooting this energy in today. So it's just so beautiful. Like there is such a transformation that is so palpable at this time that is happening for all of us, and it's playing out. And you were saying like the witch wound thing, like it's so true. And I feel like there's like a safety thing with that. And
Hmm.
what it feels like is that we are now feeling more safe, and the persecution wound, right, is beginning to dissolve. It's beginning to release out of our energy systems, because I actually very much resonated with that when I first heard it several years ago. The
Hmm.
witch wound and the persecution wound, I'm like, ooh, I have that. And I knew I had it. I knew, because I knew this was work that I had already done in previous lifetimes. And so in this lifetime, I came here to embody this safety, to be safe in this energy, and to embody it and to live it fully and expressively, and allow people to see that, hey, it's safe for you too, to just be different, to be weird, or to be into plants and herbs and natural things, right?
Yep,
This is the
absolutely.
lifetime we get to do it for real.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like if you had told me even a year ago that like, we would be here at this place, I would have not believed you at all. Like, it just seemed like, we were spent the last couple of years in this very liminal phase. And I think it was like there was this feeling that something was coming, but it always seemed like this very distant,
Yes.
like we're never really going to arrive there. And to actually have arrived there is a really amazing feeling. I mean, my life now is completely different than it was like 15 years ago. I got to spiritual awakening by way of drug and alcohol addiction. It takes what it takes sometimes, and fortunately I was one of
Absolutely.
the lucky ones who got to the place with addiction where there was basically no choice but to choose this path. And I'm so glad that I got there because I spent all that time living in fear and anger and being a victim, and to be able to like over the course of the years like make a transition into this current iteration of life is absolutely mind-blowing. Like if you would have told me back then that like I would be like not only happy but actually like willing to like help other people, I would have thought you were absolutely nuts. Like it just wasn't in the cards for me. And so to be here and to be able to make these connections and actually like kind of get into this place in life where the energy is changing and we're actually kind of getting into more of a receiving mode is just unbelievable to me. I mean the it's sort of like living a few different lifetimes in one lifetime, and now we're kind of getting to the good part.
Absolutely, absolutely. Don't you feel like things are sort of accelerated?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
I've noticed.
really
Oh, go ahead.
I just really, really feel like there's this massive acceleration taking place where things are really, really speeding up, and the things that we thought would take forever are happening. And
Yep.
it's so funny. Like this morning, I literally, because you were saying about arrival, I literally was saying to myself this morning, I'm like, I have arrived. Like, I
Yeah.
have arrived. I was literally saying that. Yeah, because everything is just so sped up. Like, I even find the days are going so quickly, the weeks are flying by so quickly. So it's like, I feel like now more than ever, it is crucial to be aware. It is crucial to be in alignment and to do whatever you can. And it's not to be forced. It's not, not pressure free,
Yep.
but just to be aware enough every single day where you are really maximizing your time, where you're really giving your attention, your focus, your love, your everything to the things that really matter, to the things that are progressing your life forward, to the things that are moving you in the direction you want to go,
Yep.
which is, like you said, receiving, right? How much of that is what we're coming back into, where I think we've been in this very masculine giving and over giving, constantly doing, constantly being in action. We've been in that state for literally thousands, probably of years, like hundreds of years for sure,
Yep.
but maybe even thousands of years. And we're finally tipping back into this like feminine energy of receiving, of being more self-nurturing, more self-loving,
Yep.
more compassionate, more patient with ourselves, right? And I feel like it's something to embrace. It's something that I want to encourage people to do. And it's like, you're not crazy because you want to slow down. No, you're not crazy because you don't want to do the 9 to 5 and you want to work maybe 4 hours, but those 4 hours you're like so productive,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, exactly. And I've noticed that I think that the trick to life, and like you're right, like time is absolutely sped up. But I think it's just because we're constantly bombarded with so much information, and the way to slow that down is with presence, like you say. I think if we can like sort of curate our life into moments and projects and stuff like that that really align with us, that we want to be, present for, and like not doing jobs where we're just going and trading time, and energy for money, but actually finding things in life that we align with, that we resonate with, that give meaning to our lives, and that allows us to, to feel the worthiness for that receiving. I think in the older system, like we felt like we had to like it's almost like if you hadn't been miserable at some point in your life, you weren't worthy of receiving happiness. You had to suffer for it. And I think we're
Yes.
just getting to the point where it's just not like that anymore. It's definitely quality over quantity. And it's I think the challenge is though is that we've been trained and conditioned for so long to think that like, if you receive something that you should sort of feel guilty or about it and stuff. I think the challenge is going to be allowing ourselves to get to a point where we're like, okay, this is okay. My life is awesome now, and like I don't have to feel guilty about that.
Exactly. I was literally actually chatting with a client this morning and he was saying the same thing. He's like, I feel guilty every time I'm receiving. I feel bad. I don't feel good. Like it's like there's like somehow shame around that, or like, or that I haven't earned it in some way. And that's what we're moving away from. And I feel like this is an energy, because that's how I'm seeing it. This is an energy that is literally disintegrating. It's like that pattern of existence is falling away now. It's starting to release, and just it's being replaced by this energy of love, because that old energy, that's fear based,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, that was conditioning. I mean, that was just that, that's
100%.
just yeah, all it was. And, that's kind of when everybody was just sort of a cog in the machine. And I think we're
Yeah.
all starting to realize that we're all a machine. You know what I mean? We're on our own, like whole, and we don't need to like, live like that anymore, and what that does is it sort of eliminates like a lot of things like competition with other people. Like when we're like really in resonance with ourselves, like we don't feel like we have to prove anything to anybody else. And that leads to a state of plurality in society as opposed to duality. Like duality
Yes.
is like we're two separate people, but we're sort of at odds with each other. And plurality is like we're two separate people, but we've got so much common ground now, and like that we're like basically sort of like one unit. You know what I mean? We're like separate and distinct, but we're working toward like a common like energy or state of being. And it's really amazing to see that change. And I honestly never thought it would happen this fast. It's just
I
seems
know.
like it just like turned the corner and here we are.
Yes, yes. And it's because now we're recognizing that there, like, at least I've never been a competitive person ever, but now I can see more and more how we're all all bringing our own unique contribution to
Exactly.
each situation, right? Like even with today's conversation, we're each bringing our own unique contribution to it. So there is no competition. And that energy, too, I feel like is falling away more and more.
Yep.
And that's why collaboration energy is starting to come back online because people are not competing with each other anymore. There's more of a desire that is being awakened within us that, like, hey, why don't we actually work together? And then you bring your gifts, I'll bring mine, and then let's see what kind of magic we can create from that.
Amazing. Well, and that's kind of been the progression of my YouTube career. You know, I'm still kind of getting started, but my I've got two channels. I've got my first one, which is Positive by Negative, which is basically it's kind of subjects that I've discussed with other people in recovery and stuff like that. And like basically it's about spiritual alchemy. It's it's alchemizing pain into power and power into purpose. And that channel is just me talking to a camera, kind of talking about these different subjects and stuff. And that's fine. You know, it's been fun to do, and some people have found it very helpful. But at some point, I was like, no, like I want it. Not, I don't want to talk about these conversations I've had. I want to have the conversations, you know. And that's why I came up with my other channel, the Universal Awakening Project, which is literally about having these conversations and really showing the world that like we can have a bazillion different points of view, and they're all valid and they're all good, you know, and like. And there's no reason to think that anybody's wrong. So, and that's
They all
exactly
serve
what I
a
want.
purpose.
Yeah,
They all serve
exactly.
a purpose. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of what I want to do here is I really want to start having these conversations. Anybody's welcome to email me, universalawakeningproject@gmail.com. If you want to have a chat just like this, we can do this, and see your point of view as well. But I think it's so important that we know that we're all safe, we're all good, we're all worthy, and everybody's like, just amazing the way they are. And I think we're starting to realize that, but we still got a ways to go. So I think it's just going to take people like us, like letting people know that, hey, even if, I'm just a regular old copier salesman guy and stuff, but somehow I managed to find it, you can too.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And that it's okay to be where you are. And that's a reminder that I want to tell everyone that it is absolutely okay for you to be where you are
Yep,
because this isn't competition, this isn't a race, right? We're not moving to any kind of a finish line. This is all about the journey. This is all about your own progression in your own timing, however long or slow or fast or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. And you just have to kind of allow, right? Allow. And this was something that I had to very deeply learn within my own journey is just allow myself to develop at my own pace and not judge that and not think like, oh, I should be ahead or I should be here or whatever. And that was something that I had to let go. And ultimately what I see in this progression, this massive spiritual awakening that is happening, that we're moving through, what is really truly happening is that we're all actually dissolving ego and dissolving like the shadow side of ego, because I don't want to condemn ego. I don't want to say ego is bad. Absolutely not. Ego saves your ass when it needs to.
totally.
But the shadow aspect of ego is this restriction, this I'm not where I should be, I'm not doing enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, this constant unworthiness, right? Or this constant I have to fix myself or whatever because I'm not right the way I am, right?
Yep.
And that shadow aspect of ego is what is now starting to slowly but surely dissolve, and it's dissolving in everyone at a different rate and at a different speed. And this is something I see all the time in my coaching, right? When I'm working one-on-one with people, so I can see that people have different like levels, or they're more or less immersed in their ego or living from their ego,
Mm.
right? And that perspective. But ultimately, what we're all moving towards, and this is why that shadow ego is dissolving, is because we're all moving to love, to
Oh,
that
absolutely.
internal love. And we're really starting to anchor that energy in and bring it in. And I always say to every single person, your job isn't to save the world. Your job is simply to align yourself, to eliminate everything within yourself that is holding you back, to release all of the fear, limitation, doubt, worry, the disconnection. Because ultimately what we need to move back to is spirit, is God, spirituality,
Yeah.
recognizing that we truly are divine beings. Because I feel like that is the biggest aspect that was really sort of missing or suppressed within humanity. Our divinity has been suppressed. And if you don't know that you are a divine being, you don't know who you are. And you're
Mhm.
going to just follow and you're going to do what you're told because you don't know who you are.
Yeah, totally. And you make a great point. Like we are divine beings and we're here in service of the soul. I always can equate this existence on earth as like, going to the gym or going to school, like when you go to the gym or go to school, like if you do only the easy things, you don't learn much.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's why, we choose these things, these lessons we want to learn while we're here, for the growth of our soul. And so I think what's happening is, as you say, the shadow aspect of the ego dissolves, is that, when traumatic or big events happen in life, I think what's happening now is we're not saying look what happened to me anymore. It's more like look what I learned from this, and we're
Yes.
we're like finding a way to like basically turn pain into power. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
really like appreciating the lesson that we get for these things. I think for so long we've just been like so buried in like being victims and like
Mm.
just that kind of like shadow self, and to really come to terms with the fact that like, hey, I came here so my soul can grow. And when everything's puppies and rainbows, not too much
Yeah.
growth happens. You got to have
Yes.
some of the more challenging things, but they're all in service of something good. This
Yeah.
is all here, it's done for us, not to us, and I think that's kind of the realization that a lot of people are kind of starting to come to as we, ascend, and our frequency kind of rises, and we become more aware of that divine origin, is that, hey, like this is all good. It really is. Like, even when it looks bad, it's still good because there's always a lesson to be learned.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the piece that I'd like to tie into all of this ascension is that Mother Gaia herself is ascending. And this is
Yes.
something I'm not sure how many people are aware of this. It's like, okay, yeah, humanity is ascending, yes. But are you aware that the planet herself, she is a living organism, she's a living being with a soul, with a heart, with consciousness. And she herself is elevating, she herself is rising. And I was reading something really interesting the other day, and it was talking about how the way that she is ascending is she is actually coming out of her own suppression, her own victim mentality,
Yep.
her own victim
Exactly.
consciousness, because she has been exploited and taken advantage of and
Yep.
misused and mistreated and not loved and disrespected for so long, for so many centuries, that she is actually now elevating out of that energy because she has been so unconditionally loving and giving endlessly, right? Just
Yep.
giving endlessly. And now she's saying, you know what? I've had enough of that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Totally.
know,
Well,
yes, and she's reached this culmination point within herself where Mother Gaia is saying, that's enough of this disharmony, this constant disruption that I have to transmute 24/7 because I'm being sucked dry and I'm being bled dry, right? Like oil is the blood, they say,
oh, totally.
of
Yeah.
Mother Earth,
Yep.
right? So us extracting oil out of the earth constantly is essentially like literally bleeding her dry.
No, yeah, yeah, and to see the progress is amazing. Like, I mean, you have to think like to have been abused to the amount or to the extent that Gaia has been, like, what would she have had to believe about herself? You know what I mean? To like allow or for that to happen? Because really, like, if somebody does something to us, it's more or less because we feel like that's what we're our value is. You know what I mean? It kind of starts with us, and
Yes.
all relief is basically an inside job. It's like, we have to like come to a place where we love ourselves and and really take our power back. And that's kind of what she's doing here.
Yes.
I think Gaia loves us just to pieces. She just loves us immensely, but she's realizing that she loves herself too, and she's taking her power back. And that's a great thing because you know, she absolutely should, put her foot down and be like, okay, we're not doing this anymore. And I think that we're kind of doing that. People are a microcosm of her macrocosm, and I think we're starting to do that. We're starting to take our power back in those, from those toxic relationships and jobs and just situations that take our energy or we give it to, you know what I mean? Or we bleed energy. And I think we're just kind of getting this like this sort of subconscious drive to really reclaim that power of us because I've seen it happen with so many people lately, and it's really I think just kind of like an as beloved or as above so below kind of a
Yeah.
situation that Gaia is doing this, so here we go, and we're going to do it too.
Yeah, she's actually leading the way. She's actually leading the way. So if people have this sort of misconception, I'd like to straighten that out right now. It's she is ascending and that's why we are ascending.
Yep.
So it's the macro micro situation, right? Just as you said it beautifully, like that's exactly what's taking place. And because she is ascending, and because we live upon her, as like organisms, if we want to look at it that way,
Mhm.
then we are ascending with her because she's moving through this rebirth process. And it just goes to show, because we ourselves are moving through this rebirth process, and you can see it. You can see it with the people that you talk to. You can see how people are changing, they're shifting. People that were closed minded forever and ever, all of a sudden like, hey, did you know this and that, right?
Who are you?
Yeah, I know. It's so cool. It's actually really, really beautiful to witness. And I've noticed it even just in general interacting with people. Like people, I don't know about you, but I look for love within people when I'm just even out about in the world. I'm always kind of looking for that spark of love, instead of looking for what's annoying or what's negative about that person. And I'm noticing that people are just kinder, they're more patient, they're
Yep.
slowing down, even just driving. Yesterday too, somebody was like, yeah, come on in. I was like, wow, like I'm really picking up
Really?
on that. And maybe because I'm conscious of that, or because I'm looking for that,
What it did.
right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that would disagree with that. There's a lot of people that would say, no, it's all chaos and everybody's, just
Because
really
that's what they're
bad.
looking for.
Exactly. Like, your frequency and your expectation completely dictates your experience. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in a frequency of love, and like you're in our default settings really are love, peace, and joy. And if like we can find those as a state of being and not just an emotion, like you just all you find is joy, peace, and love. You don't really
Yes.
see the other stuff. And so, really there's kind of a conscious choice that we have to make to like, be in those frequencies. And as time goes on, like, we make that choice initially and kind of keep practicing it. And sooner or later, it just kind of becomes what we do. And yeah, then you don't see the things that other people lament so much in the world and stuff. I agree. I totally agree. I think, one of my favorite Buddha, or she's a Buddhist monk. She's one of my favorite authors. Her name is Sherry Huber. She wrote a book called, oh, it's like, oh, it has the word sweetness in it. I forget, it's like Zen sweetness or something like that. And the point was is that in her estimation, every person on earth has this sweetness within them, like that light within them that you can find. No matter what
Yes.
how rough their exterior is, no matter how, callous they are and stuff like that, everybody has that spark of sweetness and divinity in them that you can find and appeal to. And so, when you're radiating and vibrating love and peace and joy, you actually start to kind of bring that out in other people too. And
Yes.
so, just being in these frequencies and going out in the world is actually like a huge job. Like, I mean, it's doing so much good just to go out in the world and smile at people and like radiate
Yes.
love. You're doing tons of work by doing that.
Absolutely. It's a full ripple effect, right? And I always say that, and I say that to my child too, like be the ripple effect. Be that person who is, positive, who has something beautiful to say, who compliments their friend, who holds the door for someone, right? Like be that positivity, because that's going to have a ripple effect. And whatever we embody is what we ripple out, and then that's what other people around us also embody, or just even people that we interact with. We literally bring out the good in each other.
Yeah, we're like tuning forks. Seriously, I mean, when you radiate, and vibrate at a certain frequency and stuff, like the other people around you will too. I mean, and it's a lot more dramatic, like when it goes the other way. Like, if you're in a really good mood and then somebody comes in and they're in a bad mood, like, it's like bad moods are contagious like that.
Yep.
But it also works the other way. Like you can go out in the world and just like, radiate that love and peace and joy, and like, it really activates in the people around you. And this isn't going away. I think there's kind of an estimation that, like 2025 to 2027 or so will be sort of like the transition period. But, during that time, I think, more of these gifts that we have are going to come online. And I really think that love, peace, and joy will become the prevailing sentiments, over the
Yes.
time. So it's a really exciting time. I mean, this is absolutely amazing.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes. And that's why I want to encourage everyone to, really pay attention to how you are feeling on a daily basis, like how you're showing up for yourself, and what you're doing to to bring yourself back into alignment, to bring yourself back into that love, because it is very, very easy, and it's going to be very easy, I feel, over the next 2 years to fall into the trap of like, oh my God, the world is falling apart. Oh my God, the external chaos, which we can already see playing out, right, with the Iran Israel thing right now. Like, we can already see this external chaos. But if we plug into that chaos, we're going to amplify it. We're going
Yep,
to give
totally.
so much more power to it. So it's not about turning away and turning a blind eye and pretending and being the ostrich sticking our head in the sand. No, it's not about that. It's about, oh, because I see the external chaos, I'm going to be the
Yep,
peace. I'm
exactly.
going to choose to be the person who's going to embody peace, who's going to stay in love, who's going to stay in harmony. And I'm going to do whatever I have to do every single day to bring myself into that energy. So that's what I can contribute to more. So that's the energy that I can grow more. Right. And it's going to be very important, I feel, in the next 2 years between, like you said, 25 and 27. This is going to be a massively transformative period, a massively awakening, a massively butterfly, a massively transformative and like rebirthing kind of experience for humanity. And as you said, we are moving more and more closer. And that's that split, right? That everyone talks about too, the 3D, 5D split, right? It's like whatever you're going to give your attention to is what you're going to grow. So it's a very conscious choice at this point of the juncture that we're all at, where we have to make a decision.
Well,
Excuse me, to plug into either the negativity and really be fearful because it appears like the world is falling apart, but I promise you it is not falling apart, it is falling into place.
yep, absolutely. There's so much more good going on in the world than there is bad. It's just that, the bad gets more press. It's really all that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
like you say, the dark side of it, the negative side of it is an illusion. Really, it requires buy-in. It requires people's
Conscious
acceptance.
participation.
Yeah, their participation, and on the light side, on the positive side of it, that's just God's truth. So it doesn't. I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. I mean, you don't really need people to actively put their attention on it and buy into this and stuff because it's just something that's inherently with us. So we've been convinced that the negative side is the actual truth, but it's not.
Mhm.
It's just it's the conditioning that we've been in, and more or less to kind of keep the masses in line for several centuries. That's why this has been kind of the prevailing thing. But now we're kind of moving into that truth of light, and it's just it's not as exhausting because you don't have to think about
Work
it. You know
at.
what I mean? It just happens.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah, you don't have to work at, being happy or feeling good. It just kind of happens, and it happens based on where you give, where you're sending your focus. And focus and frequency are very closely linked. Like they're kind of almost one and the same, right? Because your focus is what creates frequency,
Absolutely. Yep.
right?
Yeah, where your what did they say? Where your focus goes, your attention grows, or something like, or your energy grows, or something like that. Like basically, like where you put your attention is where you're gonna have your energy, and so I think this is just one of those times that there's so much good that we can find, like really be optimistic about and hopeful for, and I think it's just one of those things like we're at that point now, and we can feel safe knowing that hey, we're moving in the right direction.
We are absolutely. We need to be our own cheerleaders and like wave the little pom poms and be like, yes, we're doing this. We're doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
On one of your posts on your channel not too long ago, you talked about the power of having fun, like going and riding on the Paw Patrol ATV,
Yes.
those are
Play, play.
those are those moments that we're just present, we're not plugged into any kind of illusion. We're not thinking about anything in particular. We're just present. We're having fun. And I think that's really what the creator wants us to do. I don't think that life is supposed to be, hard or negative. I can't have a hard time believing that's the intention of this. I mean, there are challenges for sure, but I don't think that the prevailing, feeling is supposed to be negative. I really think it's supposed to be positive. And finally, we're, just to the point where, we've evolved enough as a species and, as humanity to be able to go the other direction now. And that's just I'm just so happy I get to be here for it.
Yeah, yeah, same. We're positive contributors to that. And I've heard many, many times that we create heaven on earth.
Absolutely.
Earth is heaven.
Yep.
this is where we get to create heaven, and this is where we get to experience heaven, but we create the experience for ourselves,
Yep.
right? And even like you were saying, like had the play, and actually this last full moon in Sagittarius we had on June 11th very much activated that. It literally, I feel it coming online, and I feel it coming back. It's like I think we have forgotten as a society that like we've gotten too good at adulting, right? Like where it's just responsibilities and this and do this and pay the bills and work and la 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 la, and we forget that what about the inner child that's still there? Why
Totally.
do you think like even a 70 or 80-year-old will still love playing catch with their grandson or whatever, right? Because they still have an inner child within them. Every single one of us do. It is regardless of age. And that inner child needs to be fed. That inner child needs to be nurtured and loved and allowed to exist.
Absolutely.
And a
Yeah.
big part of what needs to come back is that nurturing, is allowing ourselves to be so carefree the way children are carefree, right? And allowing, and like no inhibitions, because that was the thing too, is when I sat on the tiny little ATV as a full adult, I was like, you know what, I literally didn't care in that moment at all. It was all inhibitions out the window. It was just like I was so free. I
Yep.
can't even express to you in words how free I felt in that moment, just to be and just to let my inner little girl play,
Yep. Totally.
right?
Well, and that's what it is. We're healing. Like, and when you're healing, what you're doing is you're remembering all the aspects of yourself. Like, that's exactly what's healing. And so we're bringing that inner child back into the fold. The one that we've been suppressed, or we've been conditioned to suppress.
Yes.
And really like not have it be a part of us. And I think we're starting to realize more and more that we need all the aspects of ourselves to become a whole person, like really to heal. And so. I don't think that the practice of healing is a real serious thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it is, but it's not, we're not a glum lot. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just so important that people understand that it's okay, like, be your whole person, to, be weird, let your freak flag fly, as they say,
Yep. Yep.
and just, do your thing, like we were not made, to be carbon copies of each other. We're not cookie cutter souls, like we need to, everybody has the birthright to be themselves and their whole selves and feel safe in doing that, and just getting to this place where, we feel comfortable like being ourselves and being seen is just, I mean, it's unprecedented. It's amazing.
Yeah, vulnerability is coming back online. Authenticity is coming back online in a very, very beautiful way.
Yep.
And I feel like we're beginning to recognize that we need to honor all aspects of ourselves. That it's like I don't just love the part of myself that can be very professional, or that can be, say the right thing or do the right thing, but I love all aspects of myself. The silly little child who fumbles and says stupid things when they shouldn't, or the right, or like all different versions of ourselves, because we are so multifaceted. And something that I came into deep realization actually when I was really going through my spiritual awakening was that what each of us is we are essentially a vessel, and we are expressing all the different versions of God itself
Yep.
through us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, God basically, divided God's self into approximately 8 billion different sets of eyes and ears, and here we are. Each one of us is one of those fractals of God, one of those little
Yeah.
aspects and stuff. And so, like it is, we're all just in service of the same organism. It's like we're all a very unique and individual but important cell in that organism. Like this thing doesn't work unless we're all doing it. And you mentioned the 5D, and I'm told that, like, kind of the price of admission into the 5D is learning to love ourselves. Like really, like that's what it is to put
Yeah.
down those negative views of ourselves, the limiting beliefs and all that good stuff, and just realize like, hey, I am me, warts and all, and I love it, and I'm ready to like do something new.
Yep, yep. It's not a crazy admission price here to get into the 5D. Yeah, it's nothing crazy, nothing that is, not doable. It's actually very, very simple. And that's what my client was saying this morning. He's like, how do you put, he's like, you make it sound so simple. And I'm like, because it is.
Yeah, no,
Because it
yep.
really is. It's not complicated. We just make everything complicated because we overthink everything all the time, because that shadow ego is still dominating within the consciousness. And that's what you have to notice, is every single time that you are making life complicated, that you are making a problem bigger than it needs to be, that's what you're doing. You're
Oh,
just you're
totally.
living out that shadow ego version of yourself. And it's not to say, well, oh crap, I hate you and why did I do that? It's just saying, Oh, okay, that's okay. Well, I love you and thank you for showing up and thank you for reminding me who I really am and what energy I really want to be in and embody. Why? Because it simply feels better. No other reason.
Yeah,
Not
totally.
complicated, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. Like I think it's Bashar that talks about, in life, like if you don't know where to go, just follow your passion. Like, if you have a series of choices, just follow the one that like seems like the more in line of the other ones and stuff. And if you do that, you can't possibly go wrong because like our intuition is, just perfect. Our intuition works great. Unfortunately, we don't usually listen to it. But when we can learn to listen to our intuition, it'll tell us, exactly where to go and like what is for us and everything. And we don't have to like, live under these, old ideas of like, what we should be and like, where we should be at in life, like, I'm 47 years old and I should have this and that and the other thing. Like, we can let go of all that stuff. It's totally safe to do that and just follow our passions and like, just play, just go out and
Yeah.
have fun and live life, really. That's all there is to it.
Yep, yep. And go day by day and just take it day by day. It's like, yes, plans are good and having goals is awesome and it's beautiful. But I feel like there has to be flexibility. And now, actually, the fact that we're stepping into the sign of Cancer today, which is a water sign,
Yep.
right? We are literally officially out of Gemini season and we're now in Cancer. And this Cancer season is so much about reminding us to be in flow. So that is my biggest encouragement for everyone in Cancer season is to be in flow as much as you possibly can be. Go with the flow every single day. Trust what your feelings are saying. If something doesn't feel right or if you feel resistance to something, sit with that resistance. Why do I feel this resistance? Is it my ego resisting it or is my intuition actually talking here? And
Absolutely.
the difference actually between the ego and the intuition, and I want to talk about that just for a moment because
Sure.
it's important to be able to decipher who's talking, right?
Yeah, totally.
Ego is always fear-based,
Yep.
always, without a shadow of a doubt, always fear-based, where your intuition is always like a love base, like it's like a lighter, like a better feeling, like it's like there's a pull
Yep.
like, oh, I should do this, right? And
Yeah,
then there's
yeah,
like light side of ego where that's like safety, security, like don't go there, or
exactly.
stay away from that. And that's like intuition, but that's also kind of like your sort of survival ego, where it's like saving you, it's preserving you, it's trying to keep you safe,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah, and we can kind of come to terms with that. We can like negotiate with our ego, be like, okay, like I see what you're doing here. You're trying to keep me safe. Like, this is a new experience. But in this case, I'm going to override you. Thank you for your service. Like, protect me from something else now. Like, I really want
Yes.
to go ahead and like do this thing I wouldn't have normally done, and I think really like especially being the solstice, the energy is so charged right now. Like, it's not time to think small. I mean, this is the time to
Yeah,
dream big. This is the time to really like say, hey, like, what do I really want in life? What would like make my heart soar if I were able to do? And for me, it was like being able to help people by having these kind of conversations, and spirit has seen fit to make it happen. So that's my big dream. So my challenge to people is to find your big dream, find what it is that your heart really wants to do, and go do that.
absolutely, absolutely. And remove all limitation, all doubt, all restriction, all everything out of the way, and just really allow yourself to dream huge, as you said. Thank you so much for bringing that up because it's a very, very important message today, especially because the veil is incredibly thin today.
Very
Very,
thin.
very thin. It was already thin yesterday. It's going to be thin for a couple more days, but specifically today on the day of the solstice or whenever the solstice ends, if it's tomorrow for you, then just know that the it's like the spiritual realm, you have such access to that spiritual realm right now, and it's a really good time to plug in. Again, don't need to complicate it. That's simply just by being in your heart, you're already plugging in, right? Being in
Yep.
that joy, being in acceptance too, right? Acceptance of where you are in this very moment, not feeling like you should be somewhere else or not longing to be somewhere else. Just being very present in the moment is going to plug you into this very spiritual energy, and it's going to allow you to just bring in. That's how we manifest, right? This is
Totally.
how
Yep.
we call in beautiful experiences, like, oh my god, I love where I am right now in this very moment, and I love that I'm just flowing and it feels good to flow, and I'm just going to trust in myself. I'm going to trust in the divine to guide me to exactly what I need in exactly the right moment, and that is enough.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The universe conspires with you. Like if you want to have a good
Yes,
experience, the universe will deliver. If you want, if you're convinced you're going to have a bad experience, they'll deliver that too. So it's really
absolutely.
our choice. So anyway,
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I think this has been a very, very enlightening conversation. I think it's been a beautiful conversation. I
Thank you.
feel like we touched on a lot of different things, but it just really flowed very beautifully. So I'm really, really excited. I hope that this is going to be, helpful for people. I hope that it puts your mind and your heart at ease in terms of where you are at in this very moment. And I hope that you just really plug into the love that you have within you, that is there, that is accessible and yours to connect to in any given moment of any day of your entire journey. So I hope that this was good.
Yeah, absolutely. I certainly enjoyed it. I had a great time, and like I said before, if anybody wants to chat, like, and have a conversation like this, I'm game to talk to basically anybody. So if you,
Absolutely. And I'm going to have your links in the description box below. So if anybody does want to connect and reach out to you, then that's available right there. So definitely, this is the time. This
yep,
is the time.
absolutely.
We're meant to connect. We're meant to come together. And I truly feel in my heart that this is not the first or the last conversation we're going to have. So I'm sure we're going to have you back here again very, very soon, Aaron. This has been absolutely beautiful. I love your heart. I love your soul, the way that you show up. I love that you have chosen this mission, and I really love that you listened. You listened to the call,
Yep.
and you accepted your mission, and you were willing to walk through fire to get here. And I love that you chose that, and that you're here now, and you are such an inspiration and such a light in the world for other people to follow. So awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it means a lot to somebody who wants kind of lived a very small, constricted life that was just surrounded by drugs and alcohol and stuff. So to have come to this place in life where I get those kind of compliments is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much for having me, Kata. It was great to have this conversation, and thank you so much for all your support and stuff. It's been really amazing.
That's awesome. Awesome. You're very welcome. So it's been lovely to connect, and I will connect very soon again.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.